Greetings to all you beautiful people. You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, September 2nd. I hope you've all had an amazing week, and we are 2/3 of the way through the year. Pretty wild. I'm going to argue that the first third was better than the second, but this last third, it's shaping up to be very competitive, very interesting, especially the month of September. We have so many new albums that are dropping this month. I don't even know how the three of us are going to keep up with it. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. I appreciate Keith and Mary Beth, their efforts in helping me bring as much coverage as I possibly can to all of you. And as I said a few weeks ago in August, we're going to talk about some more metal this month because there's a lot of metal to be talked about. And we're going to kick things off this week with Megadeth and their new record, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. This is the band's 16th new album, and it's their follow-up to 2016's Dystopia. And what a legacy we have here. Dave Mustaine, for better or for worse. I'm glad he's still around. I'm glad that he was able to overcome cancer. He's an incredibly talented man, whether he's ruffled your feathers, whether you disagree with the guy. I know he's not the most popular figure out there. I love the interview he just did with Joe Rogan, by the way. I'm going to post a link to that if you'd like to check that out. Even if you don't like Joe Rogan, this is a perfect example of listening to two guys that you might not necessarily see eye to eye with about, frankly, anything, but just hearing them out and listening to them have a good conversation. And I'm not going to say that I agree with either of them on everything that they say, but Dave especially, it's really interesting to listen to a guy who such a wild past. I mean, you think about where this guy started off with Metallica and his drug use, his alcohol use, was kicked out of that band for that reason. And, you know, here we are all these years later with Megadeth. It's kind of funny if you think about the fact that a revenge band still is around this state, and not just the fact that they're still around, but the fact that they're one of the most influential rock and roll bands out there, even for being thrash metal. It's just, I'm tickled by it as always. It's Dave's just one of those guys. He's incredibly charismatic. For better or for worse, what he brings to the table is something that it's worth respecting as far as the influence that he's had on music. And especially when you look at this band and what they're known for as far as thrash metal and the technical skill that's there. And I feel like no matter who's there over the years, Dave is really the figurehead of this outfit. And he's always done a really good job, I feel, of, you know, whether it's I'm not sure what the dynamic is as far as his input from other bandmates on this. I don't know that much about these guys and their dynamics, and there's so many personnel changes, but I do know that he's been so consistent with the players that he's brought in and their ability to realize his vision for whatever he might be doing on a particular record. And I dig that about the guy. He has that ability to really just read people and dial into the best of them and get what he needs. I mean, that may sound like a bad way of putting it. I don't think Dave is out there using musicians, but I think it's important creatively to identify who's on your level. And Dave does a really nice job of identifying those musicians that, you know, are working on that wavelength with him. This album's really interesting. Dave Ellison is no longer with the band. It's a pretty well-known story that's out there, not worth really getting into. That's always a really interesting dynamic that I loved about this band. I feel like there's a connection between, you know, the front of house, let's call it, and then your rhythm section, the back of house. And I always felt that, you know, Megadeth, for that dynamic, having that connection between the rhythm section and between Dave being in all that lead technical work, really helped balance out the quality of compositions of their song. I never felt like the guitar work was, you know, overshadowing all that other stuff. The bass playing on Megadeth's records is always incredible. I always love the drumming. It's again, I think it's a testament to Dave and his ability to identify those players. But Dave Ellison, I should say, no longer with the band. This album's interesting. You have Steve DiGiorgio, who recorded the record, but just a studio musician. James Lomenzo is actually their bass player now. Started off touring with them, but for some reason, Dave chose to roll with Steve to record this record for whatever reason, and he actually re-recorded all the old parts that Dave had recorded at first, which I kind of got a kick out of that as well. It certainly wasn't an amicable split there, excuse me. But I think that this particular album, this is nothing new to this band as far as the personnel changes. But it's interesting just seeing a completely different rhythm section at work here, where that's been pretty consistent over the years, over the decades, I should say. But I love the feel of this record. It still sounds, this is an amazing Megadeth record. I am really loving the quality of this music overall. There's a lot of songs. There's 14 tracks. It's got a pretty big runtime with, we're looking at, hour and 3 minutes here. There's some moments where it kind of missed, but overall, this is a great effort from a godfather of metal. And like I said, I'm just happy that Dave is still around, still doing his thing, and still being influential, still pushing the boundaries. There's a lot of stuff on this thing that, it's amazing that these guys can, continue to make music like this. And even after all these years, it doesn't sound recycled. It still sounds fresh, incorporating different elements of punk. There's all these different other metal subgenres that I'm sure Dave is, tapped into, minus the anti-Christian ones, because we all know he's born again. But, music has evolved, and Dave's the type of guy that, while laying the foundation for all that, is still paying attention to the different movements. And this record does a good job of capturing all those nuances, I'd argue. The sick, the dying, and the dead, your title track. Love the intro. Bring out your dead. You can hear the vocal. It's very faint, this man in the background yelling it, but I love the dark riff that enters. It's just this cool riff that trickles in. It's nothing super crazy to start this thing off, and I kind of like the mellow way that this thing begins, but then it goes to work, and I dig the guitar work. The melody on this particular song to open up is incredible, but it's there's different guitar work throughout the top. It's going to be something that we talk about a lot through these song lists. I love the way that the different technical work is incorporated. Call it solo work, call it different layering and texturing, but it's a fun element of metal, of thrash metal especially, and who better to do it than Megadeth? I really love the breakdown. There's this creepy little breakdown in this song, and then you get this nice solo that hits about a minute left to close this thing out. Hell of an opener, nicely done. Life in Hell is your second track. Big chugging riff and just rapid fire drums, just that double bass to go. Chorus pulls back the tempo. I like that dynamic in the song. You got this cool breakdown. It's got this recitative vocal, and it's a metal thing. Metal songs tend to go to some creepy places from time to time. And so I like that breakdown. I like the recitative vocal. And then this song kicks right back into it to close it out. Your third track, Night Stalkers, features Ice-T. You talk about keeping it fresh, pushing the boundaries, cool little appearance from here. This riff is freaking awesome on this song. It's definitely one of my favorites. It just shreds. It's absolutely incredible. I love that Ice-T, he comes in on this bridge. There's a cool element there. There's this cool... the second bridge, call it what you will, of this song is it's got this mellow orchestration. It backs things off, and it's just fun movement throughout this composition. Just the different fast elements, the way that this breakdown pulls things back, and I love the way coming off that second breakdown, once the orchestration comes to a finish, this bass just comes back in, and it's filthy. I really, really dig the bass on that particular track. Your fourth song, Dogs Are Chernobyl, you may have heard it. I believe that this was released as a single. You guys all know that I try not to do that. Going into an album, I like to listen to things in their entirety, but this thing opens with, it's so creepy, wind chimes and children laughing and playing in the background. It's very creepy. This acoustic riff takes over. I like that. I like a good solid metal track with just a gentle acoustic intro. This is definitely falling into that vein. And then the guitars hit. It's just great. I really love the shift in this track is dope. There's just this fun timing that goes back and forth, fun mid-tempo feel until about like 2 minutes left, and then this thing just blows up and really kicks into it. So I like the way that this thing, it starts off kind of mid-tempo, definitely more of kind of just like a big chugging rocker, and then takes on that fast punk feel that talking about Motorhead and some of those other faster rockers. It's what I love about this band. Sacrifice is your fifth song. Opens up with this just a mid-tempo rock. It almost feels like Rush a little bit. It feels very proggy, and I'll level with you. As much as I love prog rock and as much as I love Rush, not my favorite track. This was, I felt, one of the weaker moments on the record. But again, I do appreciate for a metal record, you talk about filling out the vinyl. These guys committed to a double package. They're giving you as much as they possibly could fill out. So I'm not complaining, just trying to provide some constructive criticism here. Junkie is your 6th song, quick vocal intro, and then right into it. This track hits really hard, and it's a song that, obviously this is metal music. It's not lighthearted really in any way, shape, or form, but this song is rough. The Junkie in this shape is, or in the song is in pretty rough shape, I'll say. But I love just the different guitars that move in and out of this song, and the dynamic that's there makes this track really impressive and super fun to listen to. Psychopathy, your 7th song, a little bit of an interlude here, but you get this drum intro, and it slowly increases in volume. You get this spoken word element that comes in, kind of moving you to the halfway point of the record. And I love the way that Killing Time, your 8th song, just comes right in. This is I like the way it hits, but it might be the most tame song on the record. There's some really good technical work as well in this song, though, where I feel it makes up for that. But overall, I love when these compositions take fun twists and turns. And with regards to that, Killing Time, as much as I love the energy and as much as I love the way it picks up the second half of this record, is not as venturous as I might want a Megadeth song to be, and as adventurous as a lot of these songs already are. Soldier Out is your 9th song. Got this rapid fire chugging riff with great technical work throughout, that signature feel that this band has. And again, a little more of an adventurous feel coming out. Celebutante, your 10th track, is equal parts punk and metal. This is a great moment. This is probably one of my favorite songs because of that punk element, and it's so strong in this track, and I love it. It reminds me of a band, Propagandhi, Canadian punk band. If you're familiar with them, very political, very intense, and probably on the opposite side of the spectrum as Dave. But that's the great thing about it. You can get that intensity on both sides, and we're here to talk about music, politics a little bit, but I love that punk feel on this track. Love the breakdown, especially with the bass. It's amazing on this song. And then a really nice solo to end on this track. Mission to Mars is your 11th song. Badass bass in the intro, and this intro in its entirety is probably my favorite of all the songs. There's a fair amount of these tracks where you get some type of introduction, and this is certainly my favorite. It bums me out that this thing doesn't hit as hard as I want it to. I feel like the way that this song comes in, the way it's set up, it could have been one of the heaviest, hardest hitting tracks on the album, and it just isn't. I think it's good. I definitely enjoyed it, but I another constructive criticism, I think this is a moment where they could have just taken this track to that. They could have just turned this one up to 11, and I'm bummed that they didn't. We'll Be Back, your 12th song, does that. Blistering riff. I love the way that this song just opens with that, and the way this riff carries the track. Cool coda, excellent technical work, the exact, just exactly what you want when you're listening to this band, and the consistency that's there on this album in general. Police Truck is your 13th song, very melody driven. This is not metal. This is like easy listening hard rock. But, this is a band that, Dave talks about being, inspired by guys like AC/DC and, more of just, I guess, call it that hard rock. It's definitely not metal, but you can feel great melodies in this song. It's a fun penultimate track, and it definitely mixes things up a little bit. At this point in the record, with as much as going on, it's great that, when a song can have its own personality, I'd argue, it's an excellent thing. This Planet's on Fire is your final song. You got this sweet opening riff, another one of my favorites on this album. Verses have this just this nice pop, just good catchy feel to them. Love the vocal. Features Sammy Hagar, and then just lots of heavy guitars, as you might expect to close this thing out. There wouldn't be any other way to finish this record, in my opinion. Love this record. It's big. It seems slightly bloated, and there's a couple misses, but for the most part, I think that this is going to be worth the 2 LPs that you're going to have to fork the money over for on this thing. Just my opinion. I hope you enjoyed this vinyl, please, though. I'm looking forward to spinning this record over the weekend, and I hope you dig it as well. Hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2022, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.